day. We are free and available on all platforms. And just going to kind of keep things rolling along here. Nothing official as far as Vincent Trocheck is concerned, at least not yet that I'm seeing. And I do want to kind of shift our attention a little bit to the idea of the Ranger backup goalie situation. Obviously, I just mentioned a second ago that it looks like Keith Kincaid no longer an option. The Rangers not looking to bring him back for this upcoming season. We'll see where he might end up. But in the meantime, it's probably a good time to look at other couple of options as well. There's a couple of names that have come out. Yaroslav Halak, it sounds like, is still in play for the Rangers. I think he might still be my top choice, just a steady, reliable veteran backup. He is now 37 years old, but has recently had some good seasons. Not so much with the Canucks last year, but the 3 seasons in Boston before that, Halak played pretty well, and at times was even the starter for the Bruins during that run there. I still think there's a chance with Halak that he might prove to be just a little bit too expensive. I believe last year he made $1.5 million, which doesn't sound like much, and it's really not that much. But when you're the Rangers right now and you're looking to bring in Vincent Trocheck, do a couple of other things as well, backup goalie is a position where you absolutely, positively must, save money if you can. And that's kind of where the Rangers are right now as far as, where they are with their backup goalie. I think there was a tweet also from Arthur Staple, who mentioned that there's a couple of other names that are coming up as far as the Rangers and potential backup goalie is concerned. He did mention Martin Jones. We talked about him the other day on the podcast as well. I mean, Jones hasn't really been all that good in recent seasons, but again, you're looking for a fairly inexpensive option if possible. Thomas Greiss was another one. It sounds like he might be an option too, but according to Arthur Staple, it sounds like that might not be all that likely either. Looks like Jones might be heading to Seattle. But 2 names that he did mention were Charlie Lindgren and Eric Comrie. Now, these are not exactly household names, but I got to say, looking at Charlie Lindgren, I was pleasantly surprised by his numbers, and I'd be completely fine if the Rangers want to bring him in as the backup goalie to Igor Shesterkin. For starters, let's get this out of the way. Yes, he is, in fact, the older brother of Ryan Lindgren. So that could be fun in and of itself. Always kind of cool having 2 brothers playing on the same team together as teammates. It's been a long time since the Rangers have had that. I wouldn't even know off the top of my head the last pair of brothers that they had playing on their team. But yeah, you've got Charlie Lindgren. You know what? It was the Stalls. Now I remember. The Stahl brothers not too long ago. But yeah, you've got Charlie Lindgren, and 28 years old, played in 5 games with the St. Louis Blues last season. He was 5-0 with a 122 goals against average and a 958 save percentage. It's a small sample size, obviously, but for his career, 29 games, a record of 15-12-2, a 274 goals against average, a 913 save percentage, and 2 shutouts. And I think he'd be a fine choice to bring in as the backup to Igor Shesterkin. He's coming off of a 1-year, $750,000 contract with the St. Louis Blues, so he was making the league minimum last season. So I got to believe, given his lack of experience at the NHL level and numbers that, are not spectacular, they're not bad, for somebody that's played as sparingly as he has. But you got to figure he'd come in at less than $1 million, and I think that's what the Rangers would probably be looking for. Another option that's out there and was mentioned by Mr. Arthur Staple, who does a great job covering the New York Rangers, would be Eric Comrie, 27 years old. He was with the Winnipeg Jets this past season. He's also coming off of a 1-year, $750,000 deal. Good numbers last year. He also played in a career-high 19 games. He had a record of 10, 5, and 1. Goals against average of 258 and a 920 save percentage to go along with 1 shutout. And for his career, again, I just mentioned that he played 19 games last year. Before last year, he'd only played in 9 total career NHL games and never more than 3 games in a single season. But for his career, 28 games, he's gone 13, 10, and 1, a 306 goals against average, and a 905 save percentage. So obviously, Comrie played quite a bit better this past season with the Jets and quite a bit more often this past season with the Jets than he has thus far in his career. So, I think he makes for a fine option as well. We're also getting word here that NHL Network is mentioning that Andrew Copp is going to be going to Detroit. It's not official yet, and it looks like, it's not exactly set in stone, but that's kind of been the rumor as far as where Andrew Copp was going to head in the first place. So I wouldn't be too surprised to see that happen, rather. And as far as anything else, let's see here. Just kind of scrolling through Ranger Twitter here, seeing if anything crazy is happening, and nothing official as of yet. Again, more speculation about Vincent Trocheck maybe going to the Rangers, more speculation about who the backup goalie might be, but nothing really set in stone yet. And I will also mention something else that's important right now, and it's especially important for me because we're doing this show live. Don't get tricked by any suspect Twitter accounts out there. There's a lot of people that try to make their Twitter account look like the official New York Rangers Twitter account, and then they'll tweet out some kind of fake trade or fake signing. I don't know. I think these people have a little bit too much time on their hands, quite frankly. But yeah, just kind of a quick reminder to, assume that it's not real if it looks like it might be coming from a bit of a sketchy Twitter account, and that, make sure you're getting your news from a reputable source here. Again, nothing official on the Ranger front as far as, who they, here's another one. There's no sooner do I mention that I come along another fake Rangers Twitter account that says that the Rangers have traded for Patrick Kane and they've traded away Kakko, Lundqvist, and a first-round pick. That is fake, by the way. There's no way that that's actually happening. So, yeah. I don't know why people do this, but a little bit too much free time on their hands, I suppose. We're going to go ahead and just keep rolling here and just keep our eyes on unrestricted free agency. We will do that in just a second. But first, just want to let everybody know, today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Built Bar. From the people who invented healthy and tasty comes the latest gift to your taste buds. You've probably tried the amazing coconut brownie chunk Built Bar, but guess what? Your friends at Built have given coconut brownie chunk the Puffs treatment. That's right. The coconut brownie chunk Built Bar flavor you love in a deliciously chewy marshmallow covered in 100% real chocolate. It's like a fluffy cloud of coconut brownie goodness. Coconut brownie chunk puffs are only here for a limited time. Go to Built.com right now to make sure that you don't miss out. They are going fast because they taste amazing. All Built Bars are made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of health benefits. Eat something that tastes good and is good for you. The best part about Built Puffs is, of course, they taste amazing, but you can enjoy them guilt-free because they are actually quite good for you. Delicious coconut, rich sweet brownie, creamy marshmallow. Stop fantasizing. Get to Built.com right now to order your box of coconut brownie chunk Built Puffs right now. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15. And so, yeah, again, thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. As you know by now, we are free and available on all platforms. And again, just kind of waiting for the news. Hopefully that the signing between the Rangers and Vincent Trocheck is official. I suppose you never know for sure. Maybe there's a curveball. Maybe Trocheck ends up going somewhere else. We'll see what happens. By all accounts, this morning from very reputable sources, though, it sounded like the Rangers were indeed the favorite. And I will say this, if the Rangers do sign Trocheck, that's going to be it for today. There will be little ancillary moves here and there, guys that they bring in to just kind of fill out the roster. But if they sign Vincent Trocheck, don't expect the Rangers to do much else as far as splashy moves are concerned. I figure we might as well also talk about a couple of other things that have happened around the league that could potentially affect the Rangers as well. There's a rumor that the Rangers might be on of getting Malkin because by all accounts, it was getting pretty contentious between Malkin and the Penguins. I know that, that was obviously quite the hot button issue among Ranger fans. There were certain Ranger fans that seemed to be in favor of it, seemed to like the idea of Malkin coming in and potentially centering a line with Artemi Panarin. By that same token, there were a lot of people that frankly just don't like Evgeny Malkin. If you're a Ranger fan, there's probably a pretty good chance that he's not exactly one of your favorite players in the league, and I'll just leave it at that. So it was obviously polarizing. I wasn't really feeling the move, and on top of that, I didn't think the Rangers would really be able to afford it. And when you look at the contract he just got from the Penguins, 4 years, $6.1 million per season, and a full no-move clause. So I believe that will take him through his age 39 season. I'm not so sure how great that contract is going to age. Look, Malkin was still a point-per-game player this past season. It's not like he couldn't have possibly helped the Rangers, but for me, there were better targets than Malkin, guys that just made a little bit more sense, and guys who, their contract won't age as poorly as Malkin's contract has the potential to age. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, he also has the full no-move clause. There were reports that, if Malkin hit unrestricted free agency, that, he was looking at either the Rangers or the Panthers as a destination. I'm not sure if maybe that caused the Penguins to panic a little bit. They didn't want to see their franchise player, one of their franchise players, one of their star players, get away to a division rival in the Rangers. Maybe that was the plan all along for Malkin's camp, leak this idea that, Malkin might be signing with New York, and then the Penguins panic and they give him what he wants. Maybe that's exactly what happened here. Can't really say for sure. But yeah, Malkin, one of those guys that no longer in the running for the New York Rangers. But I'm almost happy about it because, again, I think that, the Rangers probably would be better off going with Vincent Trocheck over Evgeny Malkin. And it sounds like that's probably what will happen. We have a report from Forever Blue Shirts here that the Rangers are working hard on bringing back Tyler Motte to center the fourth line. I'm all for that. I think Tyler Motte, even if you bring in Trocheck, I think you're looking at a situation where you could probably still afford Tyler Motte. You're going to have to fill out this roster with some fairly inexpensive players, and I think Tyler Motte certainly qualifies. I don't know exactly how much he's going to get. I believe this past contract paid him an average annual value of $1.2 million. I would imagine he'd be up for some kind of a pay raise from that number. How much? I mean, that's to be determined. And obviously, however much he can get, that might also determine whether or not he's back with the Rangers. But if the Rangers can have him at a reasonable price, yeah, absolutely give me Tyler Motte. I wasn't joking, guys. I did an episode, I don't even remember when it was. It was obviously after the Rangers had traded for Motte. But I said, if Tyler Motte re-signs with the Rangers, that's my next New York Ranger jersey. I don't get a whole lot of jerseys, but I just love his game. He plays with a bunch of grittiness and just brings it every single night. Just a complete ball of energy out there. Really works hard on the penalty kill. Just a player that I absolutely love. And as far as the jerseys are concerned, everybody's got a Panarin or a Shesterkin or a Kreider or a Mika, and there's nothing wrong with that. They're all phenomenal players. But I don't know. I always just kind of like the idea of getting kind of a complimentary player's jersey. I just think there's something a little bit more fun about that. So Tyler Motte, if he re-signs, I might be ordering up a Tyler Motte jersey a little bit later today. We're also getting some news from Elliot Friedman that Kevin Rooney has now signed with the Calgary Flames. He heads there on a 2-year, $1.2 million contract. I'm happy for Kevin Rooney. I think he's somebody that is certainly not a superstar player, but he's somebody who has gotten a lot better over the seasons. He's somebody that when he was with the Devils, couldn't even stick in the lineup. He comes to the Rangers, eventually carves out, pretty nice role for himself on the fourth line. He was in the lineup far more often than not over the past couple of seasons here. And now he moves on to the Calgary Flames. Once again, a 2-year, $1.2 million deal. I had kind of, speculated that if the Rangers, and that's at $1.2 million per season, not a total of $1.2 million. But I had speculated that the Rangers could bring him back on a $1 million deal. By that same token, I'm not too surprised to see him get a 2-year deal. He's worked hard for it. And I think the days of Kevin Rooney having to settle for 1-year deals are probably over. And I realize he just played out a 2-year deal with the Rangers, but the main reason why the Rangers signed him to a 2-year deal, we talked about this recently as well, but it was basically for expansion draft fodder. The Rangers had to have a certain amount of players who were eligible to be taken in the expansion draft. Then the draft rolled around, and the Rangers actually protected Rooney in the draft. So that was kind of an interesting, development there. But yeah, good for Kevin Rooney. We'll see kind of what kind of role he carves out for himself with the Calgary Flames. Again, this is here it is. Here it is. We got him, guys. We got him. We got Vincent Trocheck. According to Frank Saravelli, the Rangers have agreed with Vincent Trocheck on a 7-year deal. Wow, that is quite the commitment to Vincent Trocheck. But that's probably what it was going to take. It's a situation where, again, I acknowledge that a lot of Ranger fans probably look at this guy and they say, I don't get it. What's all the hype about with this guy? But again, he's somebody that's just a good all-around player and somebody that, I think his game will age fairly well. I think he'll do very well in the playoffs as well. I think centering the Artemi Panarin line is probably ideal. We'll see who they would put on the right wing with Panarin and with Trocheck, if that is the line. The other option, of course, is you could always, put Artemi Panarin with Mika Zibanejad and Chris Kreider and really stack that top line. Go with the kid line as the second line. Go with Trocheck on the third line. Or, go with Kakko and Lafreniere and Trocheck as your second line and put Hedl on the third line. The Rangers have a lot of options, and that's certainly a good thing. But as far as financials, we don't have those details yet. But Frank Saravelli, as far as I can tell, the first one to report here that the Rangers got Vincent Trocheck. And I just retweeted that as well. Very, very excited about this. Again, I just think he's just a rock-solid all-around player, guy who does a little bit of everything, can play on the power play, can play on the penalty kill, brings a lot of grit, a lot of intensity to the rink every single night, and very, very excited because I was not so sure that this was going to get done. I just, looking at the landscape and looking at the Rangers' salary cap situation, just wasn't convinced that the Rangers would have enough salary cap space for somebody like Vincent Trocheck, but it looks like it is now a done deal. 7 years. Yeah, a lot of people are reacting. Wow, 7 years, 7 years. Yeah, it is a lot. It is a lot, a big time commitment. I would imagine that he probably won't get a no move clause. I mean, you never know for sure. The Rangers hand out these no move clauses seemingly like it's, Halloween, but um, no financial details reported yet. But again, I'm very, very happy that the Rangers end up getting Vincent Trocheck here. And we'll keep our eye on other things that happen regarding the Rangers here and who they might look to bring in. Yeah, a lot of people are really reacting to the 7 years, and I'm with you. That is quite a bit. Trocheck is 29 years old, so that'll take him up to his age 36 season. And who knows what the Rangers are even going to look like then? I mean, that might make him, let me go on cap friendly here. I think that might make him the Ranger with the now longest contract. And I mean, it looks like, let's see, Mika's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years on his deal. 7 years left on his deal. So that would be, yeah, Mika and Trocheck would then be the two Rangers that are under contract for the longest amount of time. So that's kind of interesting in and of itself. And Adam Fox as well. No, Adam Fox is 1 year less. So, yeah, Vincent Trocheck is going to be a New York Ranger for a long time, it would certainly appear. But again, he is somebody that I think his game will age pretty well, and he'll be somebody that's a very important part of this team. And as I mentioned, there's just a ton to like about Vincent Trocheck. This is somebody who has worked really hard to get a lot better throughout his career. He's always been somebody that plays a physical brand of hockey, goes to the dirty parts of the rink, goes to the net, all that good stuff. But he's added a significant amount of offense to his game in recent seasons as well. And somebody that has been very invaluable to players, or to both teams that he played for, rather, the Florida Panthers as well as the Carolina Hurricanes. I'm thinking at some point, we'll probably look to do some crossover episodes with the other Locked On hosts. I'm going to reach out certainly to the guys of Locked On Colorado Avalanche. The crossover episodes are just a ton of fun. And obviously there's a lot of players, moving around the league here. And, a lot of debate to be had. Was this a good move, a bad move, a good signing, a bad signing? With the Avalanche guys, we can talk a little about Alex Georgiev as well as, anything else happening around the league. And with obviously, Jared Ellis of Locked On Canes or Armando Velez of Locked On Panthers, we can talk a little bit about Vincent Trocheck and what he brings to the table. I mean, I think by now, certainly Ranger fans know about Vincent Trocheck. If you follow this league closely, you know that he's a darn good player and somebody that's been on the Ranger radar for quite some time, in fact. And now they finally do make it happen. Certainly seems like a Chris Drury kind of player. And again, as far as players that the Rangers could conceivably bring in to the team here on free agency day, I don't think there's a better player than Vincent Trocheck that was available to them. I mean, they're not going to bring in, I know some Ranger fans were trying to talk themselves into the idea that they were going to get Nazem Kadri. I don't see how that was even literally possible. Not without moving significant money in a very short amount of time. Would the Rangers have even had any chance to bring in Nazem Kadri? Patrice Bergeron, I know, he was a free agent. He seems likely to re-sign with Boston. We'll see what happens there. And then, Johnny Gaudreau, I mean, he was never going to come to the Rangers either. It seems like he'll probably end up going to, the Devils. I mean, that's kind of been the rumor, at least. Okay, we have financials on the Vincent Trocheck deal. It is for 7 years at $5.625 million per season. So that's not too bad. I think what probably happened here, the Rangers really wanted Vincent Trocheck, and they opted to give him more years rather than more dollars, which is probably what they had to do, because if you gave him, fewer years, say like you gave him like 4 years, the price probably would have been up around like the $6 million a year range, the $6.5 million a year range. And that would just be too much. The Rangers, they have to give new contracts to guys like Lafreniere and, Keandre Miller's getting a new contract next season. Philip Hedl, if he's still around, if they don't end up trading him, he'll need a new contract. He'll be a restricted free agent at that time as well. And since I'm not so great at math, we're going to go ahead and break out the calculator here, and see what the total of this contract is here. So 7 years at $5.625 million a season for Vincent Trocheck comes to a grand total of $39.375 million. It is quite a bit and seemingly a lofty price to pay, but I like this signing for the Rangers. He is going to make this team better. I'm going to be very, very curious to see what kind of a deal that Ryan Strome gets, what kind of a deal Copp gets. I think among the three of them, I'm really torn between Trocheck and Copp as far as what my top choice would be. I know that Andrew Copp was said to be seeking a 7-year deal worth around $5.5 million per season. if he gets that, then, I mean, that's kind of comparable to what Vincent Trocheck gets here. And God, that's a toss-up for me. That's something that I would really have to look into in greater detail and really just kind of debate with myself which one I would rather have. Obviously, with Copp, we saw him have some success with the Rangers this past season. And with Vincent Trocheck, he's kind of an unknown, kind of a wild card, and you just don't know how it's going to go. But again, I do like this signing. And as far as players that were within the Ranger price range in free agency today, this is probably the best one available and arguably also the best fit with this New York Ranger team. I know a lot of people are a little wishy-washy about it. Too many years, too much of a commitment, this, that, and the other thing. Would have rather had Andrew Copp, would have rather had Ryan Strome. I think this is a really good signing for the New York Rangers, and I'm very, very excited to see what he can do with this team next season. Going to keep kind of just patrolling Twitter here and seeing what else happens, if any former New York Rangers have signed with somebody else, or if there's any other free agents that the Rangers are going to bring in here. People, they tend to be critical of the Rangers no matter what they do, but more of their moves work out than not. I mean, the only move in the Chris Drury era that I think you can point at and really say, like, man, that was not good, would be the Patrick Nemeth signing. I mean, they signed him to 3 years, $2.5 million a season last year. And at the time, I thought it was fine. I thought Nemeth was kind of a low ceiling but high floor kind of a player. He ended up being a low ceiling, low floor player. So it obviously didn't work out there. And we'll see if he ends up being traded at a certain point here as well. But yeah, I mean, I think overall, Chris Drury has far more hits than misses in his short time as a New York Ranger general manager here. Yeah, really mixed reaction from Ranger fans on Twitter. I mean, what else is new, right? We can't, Ranger fans, we can't agree on anything, man. But yeah, again, another report from Vince Mercogliano here saying that it looks like Andrew Copp likely heading back to Detroit, which is his hometown. So it's not too hard to see why that might end up being the case as far as where Andrew Copp goes. And besides that, I mean, nothing really to report here as far as what the Rangers are doing in unrestricted free agency. Haven't seen any other signings. It looks like, at a certain point, you got to figure they're going to be bringing in a backup goalie. I realize, time has just kind of flown by here. We're already up to half an hour. Very, very happy that I was able to report the Vincent Trocheck signing here and kind of get the live reaction. It was, I thought about, maybe just waiting until all the dust settled and doing an episode then. But if you do it that way, you don't get the genuine reaction. And it was fun to, come on here and just kind of see it happen live. And yeah, Vincent Trocheck now going to be a New York Ranger. I figure we can call it there. There's obviously going to be other moves being made around the league here. There's going to be other signings by the New York Rangers. But I think what we might do, we'll use this as our Thursday episode. I mean, obviously, this is streaming live on YouTube, and you're seeing it here on Wednesday. But we'll use this as our Thursday episode. And then maybe a little bit later today, I'll do another live episode or maybe a not live episode. And we'll talk about the other things that the New York Rangers have done. Basically, this episode was just kind of looking around to see what happened. And the big one, of course, being Vincent Trocheck. Wanted to talk about him and the kind of fit that he would be for the New York Rangers. And I wanted to be live when Vincent Trocheck ultimately did sign with the Rangers. Of course, there was no guarantee that was going to happen. But by all accounts, it sounded like Trocheck was always likely to sign with the New York Rangers. And now he's here, and I'm very, very excited about it. And I talked about, buying jerseys earlier. Hey, you know what? This guy's going to be here for 7 years. So that seems like a pretty safe investment. You never know for sure, when a player is going to be traded. That's another thing. I always like to, try to, when it comes to jerseys, find somebody who is going to be on the team for at least some time. And by the way, now being reported that Andrew Copp going to be signing with the Detroit Red Wings on a 5-year deal worth $5.6 million. So yeah, that's interesting because it's almost identical as far as dollars per year to Vincent Trocheck, but it's for 2 years less. And Andrew Copp, if memory serves me correctly here, is actually 28 years old, whereas Vincent Trocheck is 29. I mean, it's not that big of a difference. It's 1 year, but Andrew Copp being younger actually settles for the shorter contract, and Vincent Trocheck being older gets the longer contract by 2 years. Now with Copp, of course, there's the idea that, there's some sentimentality there. He wants to go play with his hometown Detroit Red Wings. That probably factored into his decision as well. Again, he was said to be seeking a 7-year contract at $5.5 million per season. So he ends up settling for fewer years, a little bit more money, $5.6 million per season. That's a toss-up, man. I'm going to talk about that in the next episode, compare and contrast, or a future episode for sure. Maybe not the next one because there's going to be other signings that we have to talk about. But at some point, we're definitely going to compare and contrast Andrew Copp and Vincent Trocheck. I'm really, really torn. God, I think I would lean just slightly toward Trocheck. That's tough, though. Copp came in and just immediately became a crowd favorite, and rightfully so. I mean, just such a great job for this New York Ranger team. It really is a little bit of a toss-up. I think, again, people freaking out about Vincent Trocheck, I think it's a little bit overstated. This is fair market value for a player of his caliber. Would I have liked it to be more like maybe 4 or 5 years? Sure. But again, I think the Rangers had to go more years in order to keep the average annual value down and accommodate players that are going to need to be paid by the New York Rangers in the near future, namely guys like Keandre Miller and Alexi Lafreniere and possibly Philip Hedl as well. And that will pretty much do it for today, though, guys. Again, I do not rule out going live a little bit later today, but this was always going to be kind of the Vincent Trocheck episode here. And yeah, he's now officially a New York Ranger. Gets the thumbs up from me. And hopefully you guys are excited about it as well. And again, like I said, we'll come back here a little bit later today and do another live episode and talk about everything else that the New York Rangers have done. Don't expect any splashy signings. Probably just going to be a couple of role players being brought in. But yeah, for the time being right now, that will do it for today, guys. Once again, thank you as always for tuning in to the Locked On New York Rangers podcast, your team every day. If you would like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. And definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well at LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, that is at LO_NY_Rangers. And definitely subscribe to the Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I'll see you next time. And thank you for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On NHL. Locked On experts give you a daily 30-minute podcast on all things NHL all year long. Stay up to date on everything in the hockey world. Locked On NHL, your daily 30-minute NHL podcast.